mountains surrounding Sochi have been turned into a high-security zone. Tens of thousands of soldiers and police are on duty. Security cameras are everywhere in the city. Fears of a terrorist attack are high. But most of Sochi's residents have other worries. Luba Forsa and her family used to live from their vegetable garden and fruit trees. Sochi's unique subtropical climate provides excellent growing conditions. But when the city was chosen for the Winter Games, the family had to move. Their land, just 700 square meters, was on the site of the Olympic Park.
We used to harvest 5 times a year. Crops like potatoes, radishes, carrots and beets. Some people even planted peanuts. And of course we had cucumbers and tomatoes.
Sochi has changed. The Black Sea resort city at the foot of the Caucasus has seen non-stop construction since it was nominated to host the Winter Olympics. This despite the region being designated a UNESCO World Natural Heritage Site. Environmental activist Olga Noskovets says that since planning for the Games began, hundreds of protected trees have been felled. A quarry was also opened in the mountains nearby to feed the Olympic construction boom's hunger for building stone. And illegal dumps have sprung up everywhere, often containing toxic construction waste. There's one in the quarry.
The greatest danger is yet to come. The rock here is like a sponge, and everything that ends up in the quarry will eventually seep into the groundwater, which feeds into the Msimta River. It in turn supplies the city with its drinking water. It used to be very clean. Now, unfortunately, it's become extremely polluted.
Things are busy in the quarry. Even here, Border Patrol guards keep a close eye on who comes and goes. The recent attacks in Volgograd have underlined that terrorist activity is a real threat. At the end of last year, 2 suicide bombers killed more than 30 people there. Dangers like this are nothing new, says human rights activist Svetlana Ganushkina. Terrorist attacks take place on a regular basis in Russia. The country's authorities usually assume Islamist rebels from the Northern Caucasus are responsible and respond with violence in kind, but that in turn spawns fresh violence. Ganushkina views the heightened state of alert with a critical eye.
None of it changes anything for the terrorists. As we know, they have enough money to buy any policeman they want to. The police department is corrupt through and through. And the terrorists can also get any valid documentation they need. They have enough money for that as well.
At first, the residents of Sochi hoped that the Winter Olympics would provide a stepping stone to a better life. That it would mean new streets and possibly gas and water connections in every home. But now, even their wells have run dry. Once a week, tanker trucks bring clean water for washing, cooking and drinking to this village of 150 up in the mountains. Ilya Samesin and his family live here.
All of the heavy construction equipment has crushed the karst bedrock beneath us. It's like a sponge that absorbs and stores water. And they drove over it again and again with these huge machines. Then the water disappeared.
Hotels for athletes and fans now tower over the Msimta River. Corridors for lifts, slopes and cross-country skiing trails have been cut through virgin forest. The organizers of the Games aren't concerned about their environmental impact.
You know that the amazing thing here, the positive point here is that 4 years ago we had nothing here. And now you have seen that we have a beautiful mountain, beautiful slopes, beautiful facilities. And this is nothing comparable to previous games.
New access routes for trains and cars between the slopes in the mountains and the stadium on the coast have been built right in the middle of the Msimta Valley. Russia's first Winter Olympics will soon begin where the river flows into the Black Sea. Surveillance will be tight, with cameras and drones and special forces on land and on the water. a kind of restricted zone where hundreds of families, like Luba Fursa's, used to raise vegetables. For a long time, Luba refused to leave her land. Together with neighbors, she took the government to court and even went on a hunger strike to try to save her home. In the end, though, the residents lost, and Luba can't produce enough on her own property to sell any of her produce. But at least she's not far from the sea.
At first, they wanted to resettle us up in the mountains. We didn't want that at all. It's scandalous that they tried to force people to move from the sea up into the mountains.
Luba Fursa has rented rooms to 3 construction workers. That gives her enough to live on for now. But she doesn't think tourists will continue to come after the games are over. Most, she says, will stay away for fear of terrorist attacks from the nearby Caucasus.